EU country draws closer to Putin as it halts military aid to Ukraine. January 14, 2026. While officials insist the move is about internal unity and political signaling, critics say it also reflects a warmer posture toward Moscow. The shift comes at a time when divisions inside the European Union over Ukraine are becoming more visible. United Front. Slovak President Peter Pellegrini, Prime Minister Robert Fico and Speaker of the National Council Richard Raj have agreed that Slovakia will no longer provide military aid to Ukraine, according to the Slovak outlet Actuality. The three leaders also agreed that Slovakia should continue to take part in talks within the so-called coalition of the willing on Ukraine, maintaining diplomatic engagement despite the end of military support. Pellegrini said the meeting showed that Slovakia's top constitutional officials were capable of finding common ground through dialogue. To send a signal. The role of the three most important constitutional officials is to send a signal that cultural politics can be done, a cultivated dialogue, Pellegrini said. He added that the talks confirmed the leaders could discuss sensitive issues in a very open, constructive, and pragmatic manner and agree on joint decisions for the good of the Slovak Republic. The president framed the aid halt as a deliberate political message rather than a break with allies. Limits of support. Pellegrini confirmed that Slovakia will not provide military assistance to Ukraine, will not send troops and will not participate in guarantees for the large European Commission loan to Kiev. At the same time, he said Slovakia's overall position in international negotiations related to Ukraine remains unchanged. The leaders also shared a critical view of the recent U.S. military operation in Venezuela, which Pellegrini described as a serious violation of international law. Ties with Moscow. Slovakia has historically maintained closer relations with Russia than many other EU countries, largely due to energy dependence and political ties dating back to the Soviet era. Prime Minister Robert Fico has repeatedly expressed skepticism about sanctions on Russia and military support for Ukraine, arguing that confrontation with Moscow harms Slovak interests. His return to power marked a shift away from the more strongly pro-Ukraine stance taken by previous governments. Although Slovakia remains a member of the EU and NATO, analysts say the halt in military aid reinforces perceptions that Bratislava is positioning itself closer to Moscow's line, even if officials reject that characterization. EU concerns. Slovak President Peter Pellegrini, Prime Minister Robert Fico and Speaker of the National Council Richard Raj all said that the European Union remains a vital framework for Slovakia and that the country intends to remain within the bloc. At the same time, Fico warned that the EU is facing an unusually deep crisis. I would not like Slovakia, in this crisis of the European Union, to behave like a wounded deer and become a victim of significant changes that could take place in Europe, he said. The remark shows how the Slovak leadership walks a fine line between maintaining EU membership and expressing skepticism about the bloc's current direction. By Degens News, U.S., story by Catherine Fritsch, January 14, 2026.